Yeah, I think there's pretty much quite a few people already, so let's just start.
Great. Yeah.
So hi everyone, and thank you for finding the time to joining us today. And welcome to today's virtual Hyperledger Meetup 5. As you might know, Birdchain is now organizing the Hyperledger Berlin Meetup and presenting interesting use cases coming from the Hyperledger ecosystem every 3 months. If you're interested in presenting any use case, please get in touch with us. I will be posting shortly our contact on the chat. My name is Stefania Artusi, and I'm Birdchain Association Manager. Today we'll also have Birdchain Vice President Ricardo Garcia joining in a few minutes. Birdchain is a nonprofit member-led association based in Berlin. We are promoting the local Berlin blockchain ecosystem, and you can get involved with us by joining our community through the Slack channel or becoming a member by filling our membership application form. I'll be testing a few links here for you to use during the meetup. Just quickly going through housekeeping for the meeting before we get started. If you wish to ask the presenters a question, please click on the reaction icon on the bottom of the screen and select raise hand. There is also an open chat feature enabled. To chat with other attendees and also to write a message, you can simply click on the chat icon. And at the end of each presentation, there will be a Q&A session. The first one is starting around 5:20 p.m. and the last one is around 5:40. So today we will be seeing Circular3 and Ape Unit, two Birdchain members presenting two different use cases with the Hyperledger Fabric and Besu. So I'd like to welcome Emil Wagner, Managing Director and Founding Partner at Ape Unit, presenting Hyperledger Besu for European research, exploring the potential of disruptive tech for open public services. And Gunther Walden, who is the founder and CEO of Circular3, presenting an introduction into innovation award-winning CarbonBlock solution. So welcome Emil and Gunther. So I will leave you the word to Emil, who is the first to present.
Okay, welcome everybody, and thank you very much for inviting me. I will quickly share the presentation. So, does that work? I guess. So, well, first maybe a few words about me, and as you said, Stefania, I'm one of the co-founders of ApeUnit, and ApeUnit is a network of companies, and within this network, I'm running the unit that is focusing on decentralized technologies. And one of the things that is for us one of the most fascinating aspects is that, well, this is a technology that enables us to build systems where potentially everybody has equal access to. Of course, we see some key blockers, as many of you probably do, and one is the, well, knowledge of that is not spread wide enough about blockchain technology and how to use it, and the other one is the complexity, especially for the user experience. And a lot of the projects we're doing in ApeUnit are either addressing one or the other issues, so either trying to help spreading knowledge about how to build with these technologies, or exploring on how can we build better applications that are easier to use by reducing the complexity for the users and interacting with such systems. Today I want to talk about the CO3 project, which is the project funded by the Horizon 2020 program. from the European Union. And what is it all about? It's a research and assessment project, interestingly focused on disruptive technologies. So the key question was, what can disruptive technology do for or how can the public administration use these technologies to, well, create new services, or maybe also how could the new role of public administration look like with these new technologies, or what can they enable? And together with that, there was in the initial grant agreement quite some systems with a lot of complexity designed here. As you can see, there are a lot of different stakeholders like association, local retailers, the public administration, but also a lot of different technologies. So blockchain was not only one, it was just was not the only one, it was combined with, for example, augmented reality or interactive democracy like delegated voting systems. And in addition to that, also with a new form of, well, exploring geolocated social networks. That sounds, for me in the beginning, very confusing, but one of the core ideas was to explore what happens if we can map the scarcity of the physical public space to the digital space, and use this mapping as a, let's say, filtering mechanism for us for information, but also filtering like who can interact with what. And this was a very, let's say, interesting idea for us to explore what can happen there. Of course, during the project, the pandemic happened, and well, interactions in the physical space became very difficult and very restricted in a lot of regions. But we tried during the project to stay as close as possible to this idea. Okay, how can we use the scarcity? And this is also one of the core functionalities of the blockchain system in this project, and where we used Hyperledger Besu to do this mapping of the scarcity of the physical space and give it a digital representation. Of course, we're not the only partners in this project. We have 3 cities as partners, so the city of Essen, the city of Turin, and Paris, that are running different pilot sites and trying to well, explore these technologies. And then there are different technical partners like FlexiGuided for the interactive democracy and delegated voting mechanisms, ApeUnit as a blockchain partner together with the university in Turin, and GeoMotion, who create the augmented reality interfaces. So what did we actually build? So we had a couple of user-facing components like the wallet, together with the deep link format. As you saw before, there are really lots of different moving parts in this project. And one of the key requirements is creating a relatively open system that can be used in very many different ways in the different pilot sites. So we really try to create more like universal building blocks that can work. For the blockchain network itself, we used a proof of authority network, click consensus, a couple of smart contracts, for example, for crowdfunding activities and similar things. And of course, well, blockchains are great for storing immutable data, but well, not very good in retrieving the data fast and in a way as other applications needed. So we also created a tailored middleware layer to allow fast access to the data. And in addition to that, we also started a research track, more focusing, okay, what would happen if these pilots would run in a bigger scale? What could we do there to make the network more scalable? And we're looking there at how aggregation mechanisms for BLS signatures can address some of these issues. So why did we use Hyperledger Besu? So first of all, in our team, we have a lot of experience with Solidity smart contracts. We come from the Ethereum world. We wanted something that is also beyond the scope of this pilot project. Later on, maybe usable, can be reused in other projects, and something so that also, well, hopefully someone can make use out of this. And that goes a bit in the similar direction. Also, we want to have the flexibility, and of course also the licensing in a Horizon 2020 project was also key for us. Where are we right now? So the technical development is pretty much finished, and the first pilot sites still with Corona are starting in April. So we're super curious how things are going to be used. And what I want to focus today a little bit about is what are our learnings for that. So first of all, well, with Hyperledger Besu was really pretty good to work with, and was I think for us a good base, and we never regretted this decision to go with that. But I think for me personally, the most interesting part was working in a research project, because before we are very much like our background is very much product driven and always go in delivery and making a release and so on. So this was working with universities and cities and the public administration really quite a change for us as a development and implementation team. And then I think the second part that was really interesting was about the impact. So although this project was structured as a kind of technology project to explore these different technologies, I think one of the biggest impacts is, or will be, is how also the mindset in the public administration can change while looking at these technologies and what they can enable. And I think this is one of the key aspects. And what was next to that also really interesting is that the most of the, let's say, technical development work was really building user interfaces that don't need blockchain addresses to do transfers and connect with all these different services that are already there or that other partners built. So this was really where we spent most of the time, reducing complexity and making it as easy as possible, while building still something that's universal enough to host all these different scenarios. Yeah, I think that's it for people who want to learn more. There's the project website. There's a long read blog article going really into the details of also this idea of mapping the scarcity. And of course, at the University of Turin, you can find some more information about the blockchain research that is carried out there. And last but not least, you can also get in touch with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Emil, for this presentation. We have the time to take a few questions now.
I had a question, Emil, Ricardo.
Hi, Ricardo.
So, hi, Emil. You mentioned that one of the goals of the project was to change the mindset of the public administration with regards to blockchain and technology. And I mean, that's something we've been trying to do on a large scale. So what would you say was the impact that or the aha moments or whatever like that came up?
Well, I wouldn't say that the goal of the project was to shift the mindset. I saw this more as one of the things that happened really in this, exploration phase, that there was really the space of rethinking the role of public administration from well, shifting maybe a little bit from being the administrative body that's doing administration and administering the public goods towards becoming an enabler, building the tools for the people they need to manage in the communities, the public goods. And this was, I think, one of the most interesting parts for me to, well, be involved in this process and see this happen. Yeah, I think that was really an interesting experience for us.
Cool, thanks.
We have other, I think, is there anyone else who wants to ask another question? I can see also there's a question on the chat, which is, I think, a more generic question about NFTs and from Theodore.
Hi guys, yes, thank you for having this session. Very interesting, both Emil's talk and presentation and the project. I'm coming from industry, and you know, we are working with games, and you know, we are working with some companies that are considering NFT as one of the use cases for integrating within their gaming communities. And I was wondering if you guys have any views on how Hyperledger could facilitate those type of use cases.
Well, I can, if it's a question for me, I can only answer from my, let's say, very personal experience of view. I think there are currently a lot of interesting use cases around NFTs explored. We are also working on a project within the, well, that's targeted towards the music industry, since we have a very large network there already from previous projects. Well, I think also for, I'm not sure if it's, I think it's a super interesting use case for every technology you're using. I think there's also the, well, maybe for a lot of use cases, the need to, well, to use different networks in terms to address the scalability, right? If you use, for example, NFTs to kind of keep track of things, or NFTs that own NFTs and chain them into each other and so on, you get to a point where you have a lot of transactions and might also want to create an own network that's application specific.
So let me give you like a typical example of one of our customers. I don't know if you are familiar with 8-ball pool from Miniclip. So they have typically, I mean, those guys are from the largest games in the industry. They have like 500 million downloads, and you know, all their users play 8-pool, you know, online. So you know, pool tables, as you know, they have a lot of you know, a lot of ideas of how to personalize items around the game. You know, you have virtual items. Right now, they don't have NFTs. You know, they don't have personalized content that someone owns. But effectively, if they would create some sort of a market for content creators to create new content items that were consumed, the potential customer base would be 500 million. So that, you know, I don't know how that would translate on daily transactions, but, you know, it comes up to quite a large volume. So I was wondering, I mean, you know, there is definitely some aspects of compliance, because most of those games need to be distributed by official stores. So there's, you know, the aspect of having something which is compliant with those stores. But let's say that this is a policy discussion. When you select your technology, whether it's public, whether it's a private ledger that, you know, one of these organizations have set up already for them and use it as a service. But if you talk about the technology in terms of the volumes of transactions they can support, do you think Hyperledger could support such type of volume of transactions for hundreds of millions of customers? And what would it take to make it work?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm the best person to answer this question. Maybe also someone who's more familiar with Hyperledger Fabric is pretty suited for that, because I mean, within the Hyperledger project, there are different sub-projects, and some of them are maybe more suitable than others, right? So, I mean, in the project I presented here today, the network architecture was relatively simple to what else we're doing, also in terms of requirement from towards transaction volume that can be processed, since it was targeted for this pilot size. But of course, we wanted to use a technology that has the potential also to grow beyond this specific use case in this research project. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if I said what we're currently, or what we're looking at during this project that I just presented, was how can, for example, the aggregation of BLS signatures help with different blockchain networks to maybe combine transactions and so on to, well, make the right operations in the end you need on the public network less, and still enable user interactions. The one of the paths to go there. There are a lot of different technologies to address these scaling issues.
Okay, thank you, Emil.
Thank you, Emil. Thank you, Theodore, as well, for your questions, and all the other participants who asked. I think maybe we can move on to the next presentation from Gunther Walden, CEO from CO3. Gunther, are you here with us?
He is with us, but on mute. Gunther, can you hear us? Let me quickly ping him. We see that your camera is turning on, Gunther, but we can't hear you. Okay, looks like he's having some issues, so he's leaving and rejoining. Let's give him one more minute of grace.
All right.
While we're waiting, and if anybody has any other questions about Hyperledger in general, we can use this time for more Q&A.
Everybody's thrilled and excited about Gunther's presentation. No other questions in between.
Well, I'm definitely interested, and I know we have, well, here, just to share, if people are interested in what's going on with blockchain and climate, I will point out that here, Hyperledger has a climate action and accounting special interest group. And so I know we shared this presentation with this group, and I know we have some people from that group here today. So just if people are interested in engaging beyond this meetup with climate, using blockchain for climate use cases, that's an option that you can look into. I dropped a link in the chat for that.
Great, thanks, David.
Is that a working group, David?
Exactly. So Hyperledger has a number of different special interest groups that are around adopting how blockchain technologies are being adopted in different industries. And so climate is one. Also, we have a media related one. The topic of NFTs came up earlier. So we have a media entertainment group, and they just recently had a presentation of using Hyperledger to create digital collectible tools. So if people are interested in just how blockchain is being applied in different industries, I'll drop a link to all the special interest groups that we have. Yeah.
I see that Gunther is among us again. Welcome back. I think his audio is still connecting.
Yeah, he was able to dial in and speak and share a screen before, so yeah, hopefully we'll be able to get this.
Yeah. Hi, Gunther. Can you hear us?
We don't hear you, unfortunately. Your audio is now connected. We can still see but not hear you, Gunther. But now it looks like the connection to your audio is being established.
Gunther?
We're getting there.
We can't hear you, unfortunately. Yet.
Yeah, he said his PC crashed.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really sorry. Just when I wanted to start to turn on my camera, Zoom crashed. So I don't know why this happened. And then I couldn't even stop Zoom. I had to reboot my whole laptop, and it's currently running up again. So it shouldn't be too much longer. I really apologize, but I don't know how this could happen. It's actually never happened to me before, so
No worries. We are happy to have you back.
Pardon me?
We are happy to have you back. No worries.
Okay, maybe I start while I get up my presentation on the laptop. I start talking a little bit about Circular Tree. We founded Circular Tree in 2018 And really our target was to support companies in getting more sustainable supply chains. And we initially started with a project in the area of conflict minerals, and did a pilot project there with Daimler. And then, and this is quite interesting, with Emil, we also got an opportunity to join in a research project, which is called Block 3. And Block 3 is really a healthcare project. And there we're actually also using Hyperledger Fabric, or let's say we plan to use Hyperledger Fabric. We're still in the early stages of that project, but it's also a consortium together with a technical university, with the research center Informatik, with the University of Karlsruhe, with the Charité. So it's altogether 10 partners. And I can kind of confirm what Emil was also saying, that it's really interesting to look at projects from this perspective, where you don't really are not just looking in getting something out, but where you really do some research. And in that project, for example, we were doing a thorough investigation of many different blockchain types before we finally decided to use Hyperledger Fabric. So, and I'm very excited to see that this will eventually be realized, and I'll be more than happy maybe in a year if we have something running to show you some details about this as well. So now I should be coming up with my PC. Okay, can you see me now?
Yes.
You can see and hear you loud and clear.
Okay, yeah, I don't know why this happened. It just happened when I started my video. So let me just bring up my presentation. Not again.
You might want to turn off your video, Gunther, because it might be a bandwidth issue.
It's great. So now let's try again. Okay, let me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
What the hell is going on here?
You might want to turn off your video, Gunther, just to save the bandwidth.
Okay, I've turned it off. So now. See it now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, new start. So I was just to finish this with a Block 3 project. It's quite interesting to learn other things, and in the Block 3 thing is that we're only working on the blockchain layer, so everything above is done by other partners, so we can fully focus on the blockchain part and do not need to have much domain expertise out of the healthcare area. That's just for a starter. So now going back to what I really want to say is our solution is CarbonBlock, and what we really are offering companies is to become part of the solution against climate change. If you see climate change has really impacted companies or is impacting companies on many different areas, actually, in regards to regulation fees and taxes from governments, from customer and consumer side by changing buying behavior, and from the banks and investor side that they're shifting their focus towards more sustainable, responsible investing. So companies are really eager to do something. Now, if you look at the issue is, you see some large companies have already published their company carbon footprint, and some have provided targets on when they want to become. The big problem, however, is the product carbon footprint. So typically, and this is an investigation by the Carbon Disclosure Project, the last company only adds 20% carbon footprint to a product. 80% comes through the supply chain. And there you have the challenge. There is no visibility these days about the carbon footprint of the supply chain. If companies are providing product carbon footprint information, it's done by a life cycle. They virtually take their product apart and then check it out in databases and take average data to calculate it. But this does not address the problem because it's not the real carbon footprint and you cannot really change something. So what we want to do is really provide an opportunity to measure the real carbon footprint and then the real carbon footprint. And this is what CarbonBlock does. How does it work? Very simple. For example, this is a project we've done with startup Autobahn. So BASF, as a chemical company, provides a granulate. They write the product carbon footprint of the granulate on the CarbonBlock system. Then you add the transportation of the granulate to Motherson, who is a tier 1 supplier making bumpers. Motherson takes the carbon footprint of the granulate and then they add what it takes them to make a bumper. And this total carbon footprint they write again on CarbonBlock. We add transportation again, and then they do this with all their suppliers and add their own carbon footprint for making a Taycan. Then they have a real carbon footprint of a Taycan. And this is the basic architecture, what we're using. It's a little bit simplified because, of course, real supply chain look much different. But at the end of the day, the important thing is product carbon footprint from one tier to the next. Theoretically, we could give everybody accessibility, but right now, companies are very reluctant to provide too much transparency. A little bit more in detail is what's important about the solution is that you need to automate this because companies have way too much products in order to manually calculate this. So you need an architecture where you can have databases providing, for example, the bill of material, production process data. And then you only need to set up once a process model. And then if one of your suppliers changes his product carbon footprint, the system then can automatically calculate the new value. This is important. Of course, in the pilot, we couldn't do a full-blown solution. There we did this, the process model with an Excel file, and we're just developing a tool which automatically changes data. And what you can see is very important. The critical data stays within the company boundaries, and the blockchain system is, of course, in this is where only product carbon footprint data is stored. So this is a very important point for acceptance by the corporations. This is some more detailed architecture. I'm not a software architect, so but if you have any further questions, De Jong is also on the call. He can answer those questions. Now, once we have the transparency, you want to do something, and this is a great thing. You can have, for example, product comparisons. You can compare different materials and say, okay, this material too has the lowest carbon footprint, so I use this material too in order to design my new product. Or you can make agreements with your suppliers where you say, I want to reduce the carbon footprint, let's say by 50% every year. Or last but not least, you can just compare different suppliers. This has been the feedback from the project participants, Porsche, Motherson, and BASF. It's the first solution to track real product carbon footprint information. It helps to determine the best levers to reduce product carbon footprint. And it's very important to have automated processes for data collection and transfer. And it's one standard, one tool. The efficiency between customer and supplier increases significantly. And in regards to blockchain, what the feedback was is if people know data is immutably stored on the system, they feel that companies have a greater accountability for data reliability. So it's a psychological thing that they really say, okay, if it's immutable, stays there forever and cannot alter it, they believe there's a greater accountability. After we did this project, we were invited by the World Business Council Development. They had just started a similar project, and this is called SOS 1.5 for we need to achieve the 1.5 degree from the Paris Climate Agreement Pathfinder project. And this project approach is exactly the same as we did it, and so they invited us because we had already done a pilot. What is now the good thing is that together with other solution providers, we are working on standardization. First of all, about the calculation, and secondly, we develop open standards so different solution providers can access the network and can provide solutions to their clients. And this, in my opinion, is very important, that we have a broad base here, that the communication technology is open to many other companies. I just see that it automatically moves forward. But anyway, important is also in the solution. What you see here, different areas from a company. So from the procurement over mergers, acquisitions, corporate reporting, up to HR and employee engagement, we have worked out in the project which departments can derive benefit from such a transparency, and this is really great that companies, these corporations who participate in that project, see that they can really benefit by this increased transparency. And in my last slide, you see they've also monetized this. This was on an example of a large foods fast-moving goods manufacturing company in a 5 to 10 years time frame, but they think it's 1 to 2% of the revenue could be avoided offsetting spend. If they have a lower carbon footprint, they need to pay less carbon tax, and this could add up to 2% of the revenue. Top line growth. Those companies in there say that they have sustainable products grow faster. And then they see a top line growth of 1 to 3%. And then in the reporting, they say they could achieve a saving of up to 5 million per year. And this is, in my opinion, very important, that we not only have the savings of carbon footprint, which is of course very important for the society and for the planet, but that also companies can have a benefit by this, and then we will see that there is a much quicker adoption. Yeah, that's it from my presentation. I went a little bit faster than I normally would have done it, but just to make up a little bit of the time. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Gunther, for the presentation. Actually, I can see why you used Hyperledger Fabric. I mean, because for the proof of authority algorithm, it's definitely fast and energy efficient. I actually have a question regarding, CarbonBlock actually enables all participants to share actual carbon footprint information in the supply chain. This is very effective from a transparency point of view. What about the traceability?
This is something we are continuously discussing. We've discussed this already in the pilot project with Porsche and BASF. Typically, the OEM wants to have traceability, but the suppliers do not want to provide that traceability because, first of all, they have confidential agreements, but most importantly, they feel the more information their customers have, the more things they can find to put pressure on prices. And so this is why also in the World Business Council project, we have decided not to make traceability mandatory, but we will offer it as an option.
Okay.
So it's an organizational thing, but if we would make this mandatory, we feel that many companies would just not use the system. They would not use such a system because they're afraid of that.
Okay, yeah. Great, thanks. Is there any other question for Gunther?
I had a question also, Gunther. How do you deal with, I mean, the process that you described works very, like you showed a linear process in that sense. You make the granulate, it goes to one company, this company makes a part. What about multi-tier supply chains? Like if you take, for example, palm oil, sometimes like palm oil refinery sources from 200 different mills, and then a chemical company sources from 3 different refineries and uses a refined palm oil to put it into 20 different products that are then used again by companies into 50 different products. So there's a many-to-many
yes.
relationship. Does it also work in those cases?
Yes, definitely. I mean, this is from our software. It's not a problem at all because you can have this in the process model. Where it is important, and this is we have in this SOS 1.5 Pathfinder project, we have 2 major work streams. One is a standardization of the calculation rules, and this is exactly what you are addressing. If I have multiple inputs and multiple outputs, which output gets how much of the carbon footprint? And this is where we are making rules on how companies need to calculate this. Or for example, if a company purchases like whatever, 80% power from coal and 20% renewable, do they, which value can they say, okay, 20% they make 0 carbon products and the other 80 is getting all the carbon footprint? So those agreements need to be done, and there is a work stream of harmonizing the calculation rules. Because if you don't harmonize it and everybody does it on its own, it will not be comparable, and this would not benefit the system. Does that answer your question, Ricardo?
Yeah, so this means that, like, if we again, I don't know, take the example of palm oil, if you have, for example, a company buys 1 ton of like very good sourced palm oil and 200 kilos of badly sourced palm oil, we can calculate like an average kilo of palm oil that is used has this carbon footprint. And then on the other side, when they use it in their products, you would say if you use out of this 1.2 tons, like 500 kilos, then you take like this average value of the quality of the product ingredient that the company has, and then you calculate it based on that.
Yes, this is exactly the discussion which is going on right now, and probably we will allow both. However, it needs to be absolutely ensured that not more of the good palm oil is calculated than there is in reality. You know, this will definitely need to be ensured. But probably we will allow companies both options. It's not final yet, but this is what I think will be the outcome.
Okay.
But you cannot have a mixed model. Either you take the average value, or you take the good and bad, but not anything in between.
Yeah. Any other questions to Gunther?
Maybe then I have one last comment because it's just a Hyperledger meeting, and I see that Robin is there. We've also started discussions, and I think this is a really great opportunity also for Hyperledger with Robin from the special interest group Climate Action, to see whether we can cooperate here in developing open standards based on Hyperledger Fabric. So this is certainly something which I think would also be great. Those were my closing words.
Yeah, Robin, do you want to say a word or two about the group?
Yes, thanks, Gunther. Yes, we're at the Hyperledger Climate SIG. David also said that before. We have bi-weekly meetings every Tuesday. So we have a meeting on Tuesday at, I think it's 6 p.m. Central European time. You all are invited. We are currently developing an Hyperledger lab. I will share the link with you. It's based on Hyperledger Fabric, and we also use an Ethereum implementation for the trading with carbon emissions tokens. So you're all invited. Take a look at our wiki and reach out to us. We're also very active on the Hyperledger Rocket Chat. You all are welcome, and hopefully I will see a couple of you guys on Tuesday.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Robin.
Okay, then apologize once again for screwing this up, but I don't know what happened.
No problem. It worked out in the end.
Yeah.
That's all that counts.
So then I think if there's no other questions for Gunther, we can also wrap up our session soon. So thank you, Emil and Gunther, for this insightful meetup and presentations. And thank you to all the participants that have joined and engaged. You will find the recording of this video on YouTube. I guess also in the Hyperledger Berlin meetup channel, and as well on the Berchain YouTube channel. I'm going to paste here a few links for you to watch again the video. And if you want to drop us a question or want to get in touch, you can write to Berchain at hello@berchain.com. I'm going to paste here the email. So thanks to everyone, And
Thanks
I
from my
see
side as
you.
well.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
So
see you
we will be.
in the next
Thank you all.
meetup.
Just as a quick heads up, we will be running this probably on a quarterly basis. So if you have any interesting use cases, Stefania already mentioned it, but reach out to us from BirdChain, and then we can see how and when we can accommodate any presentations in the upcoming Hyperledger meetups. So feel free to drop us a message and get in touch. All right, then thanks everybody, and have a wonderful evening, and see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.